Hello again. Another beautiful afternoon. Just this is going to be a very quick one, and it's kind of directed at some those of us who would like to have a cigar once in a while. And I'm going to tell you a little bit why. And I think maybe that was just me, but for the longest time, I was under the impression, and I had the practice, let's say, of thinking that if you're smoking a cigar and you want to have a scotch at the same time, the best option is something peaty so that they kind of, resonate with each other or echo with each other. And that went really well. Until not long ago, at some tasting, I met the guys from Dalmore, which is a whiskey I did not know before, and I, tasted this whiskey, interesting name, which was called the Cigar Malt Reserve. Malt Reserve. Now, for those of you who know Dalmore, it's a Highlands, so it's north of Inverness in the Highlands whiskey. It's not peated. It's sort of the classic, let's say, not peated, Scotch. They have lots of different bottlings, anywhere from like some daily Scotch, if you want, to the special reserves and the special, very aged, very long aged bottlings. It's a mix of bourbon casks and Oloroso sherry casks with some addition for finishing purposes of wine casks and things like this. The master distiller and the master blender decides kind of what bottling, what he wants to create for that specific bottling. And so when I was intrigued by the notion that you could have a non-peated scotch with a cigar, and I bought the bottle and I've been using it, with my cigars once in a while. This is this bottle here. It's aged in a mix of white oak bourbon casks from the US and Oloroso sherry casks from Spain, with also, they have their own supplier. I mean, it's a big distillery, so they really have their own suppliers of casks that they like. But this one also has some finishing in red wine, Bordeaux. I think they say Chateau Marbusé, but maybe not. Anyway, so it's Bordeaux red wine casks, and those are discarded after having been used a few times, so they've really become pretty neutral, even though on the inside they're coated, if you want, with the wine. And I really liked that combination with the cigar. I think it's instead of sort of going with each other, what you have with the smokiness and the peat, you have something that with a sweet taste of the scotch really kind of tones down the cigar and helps the whole experience become much smoother and maybe a little bit less intense in a way, and that's something to be said for. And so here we are. This is the scotch. You've got the typical color. There's not a lot of detail on how aged it is, whatever, and that's not really the point. The point is the mix, and a lot of it is marketing. As you can imagine, whiskey brands are known for that. This is a very old distillery going back to the early 19th century, by founded by somebody from the Matheson family, which Clan Matheson is known, for the people who know a little bit of Scottish and Chinese history, for the science that's for the, let's say, the ancestral home and family of Matheson, from Jardine Matheson. It may or may not be the same family, but these clans, these families in Scotland are usually pretty tight, and they kind of all go back to a common, let's say, a tree trunk, from a family tree point of view. Anyway, so this is the scotch. I'm going to taste it very quickly, but to me, the notion here that I wanted to convey is, and maybe it was news for me and me only, that a non-peated, like a sweeter kind of scotch, actually goes pretty well with a cigar as well. So that opens up the possibilities. Here we are on the nose. It's really got that a little bit of that, maybe from the American oak kind of, that we find in bourbon and sometimes in rye. This sort of a little bit of sweetiness, a little bit of cinnamon, not as spicy as the rye we discussed the other day. but certainly on the sweeter side, you know, with notes of toffee, cinnamon, a bit of vanilla. This is all on the nose. On the palate, there's a little bit of butteriness, and again, it's not necessarily. It comes a little bit with the viscosity of these alcohol. This is only 42%, I think, 44%. So it's not necessarily super alcoholic, but it's enough to really coat your mouth. And if you're smoking a cigar at the same time, which I am in the background, it sort of helps envelope the sort of wrap the cigar, let's say, in this kind of coating, the sweetness, a little bit of that butter, a little bit of the smoothness that kind of makes everything really kind of combine very nicely on the palate. And so this is just to kind of bring up this point, and I'm sure it could work very well with a lot of other scotches, let's say from Speyside, some of the sherry, traditional sherry, or even bourbon casks, whiskeys. Anyway, that was just a quick note for today. Cheers, and see you soon.